This video is sponsored by Omaze. This week, I'd like to address earning income online or from the road. For the past 6.5 years, I've tried a bunch of methods for earning income. This quest to make money online started when I first hit the road in my Honda Element camper in 2016. Since then, I've tried many different routes for online income and discovered what does, and more importantly, what does not work for me. Some of my internet money-making ventures have been giant wastes of time, to put it lightly. Of course, we are all different, and different paths will work for different people. All that I can do is reflect on my personal endeavors trying to make money from the road. I can go into detail about my individual experiences and hope that it helps you determine a potentially successful path for earning money while traveling, living off-grid, or just from home. Okay, so let's start by discussing some of the things that have been successful for me in terms of making money from the road and ultimately making money online. The first thing on this list isn't really making money online, but I do think that it's really important to mention because for me, it acted as a crucial stepping stone, probably the most important stepping stone. When I first decided to hit the road, I converted my Honda Element into a camper, and then I took off. I didn't really have a plan. I had a little bit of savings, not really a whole lot, and my goal was just to pick up seasonal jobs occasionally. Work for a couple months here, save up a bunch of money, travel for a little bit until you get to the next seasonal job, work that one, and then kind of just repeat that cycle. And that's exactly what I did. I worked the summer as a surf instructor in San Diego, saved a bunch of money, was able to travel up to the Northwest and then over to the Midwest, the upper Midwest. I then worked the sugar beet harvest for the first time up in North Dakota, and then I traveled back down. I got a little temporary job in New Orleans, worked that for a few months, and then I moved back out west and I picked up a job as a surf instructor. All the while I was, obviously focusing all of my spare time on building other skills, building this YouTube channel. We'll get to that later in this video. If you're in a position like I was maybe 7 or 8 years ago, working a job that you're not happy in, you just want to travel, you want to make a major change in your life, becoming a minimalist and picking up seasonal jobs to get you from point A to point B is definitely a good way to go. At least it worked for me. Number 2 on this list of things that have worked for me in terms of making money online has to be YouTube. And that's not to say that YouTube pays extraordinarily well. Google AdSense revenue, I think that there are a lot of misconceptions out there about how much money you can make from your YouTube revenue. But I will say that when I made that first video back in 2016, I think it was a tour of my Honda Element camper. Over time, that video did relatively well, and I decided to just keep with it and stick to it. Since then, I've made well over 400 videos, and eventually, YouTube sort of transitioned into a primary source of income for me. When I first started it all, for the first couple of years, I would be lucky to make $100 or $200 in a month from my AdSense revenue. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing, and I never expected it to grow to the level that it has grown to today. So, I'm incredibly grateful for YouTube as a platform and for all of you guys. I love you guys. I'm grateful that y'all are following along on this journey, and some of you have been for so long, since those original days. Speaking of YouTube, part of earning money online from the YouTube platform is to have sponsors of some videos. And this video is sponsored by Omaze. Omaze is an organization that works to support charitable causes while also giving you the opportunity to win some really awesome prizes. This week, if you follow the link in the description below, omaze.com/element, you can enter for the chance to win a Ram 1500 pickup truck along with an Airstream Caravelle camper. Definitely a pretty awesome setup. The Ram 1500 pickup truck gives you more than enough towing capacity to tow the Airstream camper, and the Airstream is super modern inside, luxurious camper overall. Really, really cool way to hit the road if you want to hit the road full time, or even just to go on some really cool camping trips. And if you do enter for the chance to win the limited pickup truck with 4-wheel drive and the Airstream camper, you can also make a contribution to Mutt Nation. It's a nonprofit organization that works to support sheltered animals and help them to find their forever home. Definitely a great organization overall. Like I said, if you follow that link in the description below, omaze.com/element, you can enter for the chance to win. Thank you again, Omaze, for sponsoring this video. For me, number 3 definitely plays off of the YouTube thing. I guess, number 3 is developing skills that you're passionate about and then focusing on those skills to, build a way to earn income. And YouTube, like I said before, I had no idea what I was doing. I was just filming my videos with a smartphone and editing with Windows Movie Maker when I first started. But eventually, I made it a goal to just try to learn as much as I could about the video production process, and I became very passionate about filmmaking over time. I was always interested in, making videos as a kid and making films. I guess getting into YouTube sort of reignited that passion for filmmaking and for making movies. And over time, I really focused on learning some new things. I graduated to Adobe Premiere Pro eventually and got into that, and then I learned DaVinci Resolve and color grading, color correction. I got my Part 107 drone license and really got into aerial cinematography, and this definitely opened the door for a lot of video production opportunities for me. And, over time, that has become a major source of income for me. A few years ago, I got into filming weddings. That's something that I've been doing, and I've done quite a few of them over the past so many years. Absolutely love doing that. If you are out there, by the way, and you are getting married, or you know someone that's getting married, I am booking for this year and into next season. Generally, I'm willing to travel, and I can make it work with my schedule. Feel free to send me an email, nate@el.life. I'd love to pick up a few more wedding films over the next couple of years. But anyways, yeah, I guess that's kind of how this is all developed for me, just focusing on something that I was really interested in, and I was fortunate enough to be able to keep making these YouTube videos, and every video that I made, I just tried to get better and better with editing and learn something new every time. And another example of that is learning how to build stuff. I'm certainly no master carpenter or anything, but over the past so many years, I've done a number of van builds. I've been hired to do a couple of van builds as well, and now I'm working on the tiny house, and that has definitely been, a big stepping stone for me in terms of earning income on my own, working for myself and earning income from the road or from off-grid. I do got to say that, this whole process for earning income has been made easier by the fact that I have chosen a minimalist lifestyle. I have tried to eliminate my expenses and keep things as small as possible, right? So that I can then make any income that I do make go a lot longer. I can save more money as well for my future. Those have obviously been important parts of this whole process for me. And I think that for anybody, learning to live with less will definitely help you to achieve your goals faster and more efficiently. So I guess now is the time to move to what has not worked for me in terms of making money online. I've tried a number of different routes, and some of these things have just not been successful. I will say before I get into it that just because they were not successful financially doesn't mean that they were complete wastes of time. I learned something from every single one of these things I'm about to talk about. It's just, the fact that I probably spent a lot of hours on a lot of these things, and then when you break it down hour by hour, I basically didn't make any money. So this is just my personal experience too. A lot of these things I'm about to mention, I know that they work for other people. Just for me, it didn't really work out. So number 1 on this list has got to be like using freelance websites like Upwork, particularly Upwork for me. That's the one that I really focused on. I used a couple of them, but when I first moved into my Element camper, I spent basically all of my free time studying. I was trying to learn how to code. I wanted to learn front-end web design as well as back-end stuff. I did some PHP, some JavaScript, CSS, HTML. I took a bunch of classes online, and I wanted to be able to apply that. I thought that that was going to be my income stream. I thought that that was going to be how I was going to make money from the road, living in my elements. And if you look back on those original videos, I talk about it quite a bit. That was something that I was focusing on. I would spend hours and hours at the library or at Starbucks in between surf lessons, just trying to build my skill set in web design. And eventually I did have some success at the beginning. I picked up a couple of clients on Upwork, but the amount of time that I spent trying to get those clients and trying to compete against everyone else in that marketplace probably was not worth it when you look at it all in the long run. It's very difficult to compete on Upwork, at least that's what I found. There are a lot of folks across the world. It's a completely global market, and folks on the other side of the world, they might be willing to work for a lot less than I'm willing to work for here in the United States. And I found that it was very difficult to compete, especially in the web design and just simple web app and that sort of market there. So I don't know. The couple of clients that I did pick up, they were also pretty interesting. One of them in particular, I could probably make a whole video about him. It was a really weird relationship and kind of a crazy experience, but I did make some money from it, so it wasn't a complete loss. And like I said, the experience that I gained in web design and in web development, I've been able to apply that towards Element Van Life and the website that I made, my website now, el.life. Number 2 on the failed money-making schemes list for me has got to be my foray into transcription work. This is something that I actually tried long before I met any of you guys. It was one of the first online money-making ventures that I attempted, and I did have success. I did earn some money from it, but I gotta say, it was not for me. I spent a lot of time transcribing all of these documents. I can't even remember the name of the website that I used, but they would send me these audio files. Usually the audio files were terrible quality. I could barely hear what was going on. I remember one of them, I had this guy, he had like the gnarliest Scottish accent that you can imagine. It was like listening to a Robert Burns poem. I had absolutely no idea what he was saying. It took me probably 8 hours to do this transcription. I submitted it and I was paid for it, maybe like 30 or 40 bucks, but 30 or 40 bucks over 8 hours is definitely not worth it, at least not for me. That's not to say that you can't make a career in transcription. If you get the right tools and you really focus on it, you can obviously make more money than that. This was also 8 years ago. I'm sure that it pays better now, but for me, that work was not how I wanted to spend my time. Speaking of Robert Burns, the best laid schemes of mice and men gang after the glay, and number 3 on this list has got to be Skillshare. This is something that I did last year. I had the opportunity to create this Skillshare class about gaining financial freedom through minimalism. It was an awesome experience. I worked closely with Skillshare, met with them. It was a huge time commitment, and in the end, when you look at it from a financial standpoint, it probably wasn't 100% worth it. I'm still very grateful, though, for the opportunity to do that. It's something that I did enjoy doing. I learned a lot from it, and I'm grateful that a lot of you guys have checked it out. I mean, a lot of folks have watched the class. I will put a link in the description below. It still is on Skillshare if anyone's interested in checking it out. But when it all comes down to it, Skillshare pays royalties on a monthly basis, and looking at what I've made in terms of royalties and then dividing it by the amount of hours that I spent putting this class together, it comes out to a few dollars an hour, best case scenario. I think that Skillshare is a really great platform overall, but that was something that just didn't really work out for me so well. Number 4 on this list, and probably the last thing that I'm going to talk about, is print-on-demand websites like Teespring, Redbubble, Spreadshop. I have never had any success with those, even though I have tried them all over the past couple of years. And, I really got into like graphic design last year. I was learning Illustrator, and this sort of goes back to what I was saying earlier. The experience of learning that was definitely worth it. I love designing things, and I do think that part of it is because this channel is dedicated to minimalism. It's about not buying things that you don't need, as opposed to buying everything and spending all kind of money. So that's definitely part of it. So it just doesn't really make a lot of sense to try to sell a $30 t-shirt. and that's how it is, right? Like this t-shirt, for example, I like it. It's pretty decent overall. It's nothing fancy, but I'll sell this thing for 25 bucks, and then you have to pay shipping on top of that. So you end up spending like 34 bucks or something like that. And when it's all said and done, I'll be lucky to make $3 or $4 from the whole transaction. These companies, they take a huge percentage of the money that comes in, and it makes it so that it's really difficult to make any money unless you're pushing a lot of volume, which I just don't think is really an option for me with this channel and what I have dedicated this channel to. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. I think that pretty much sums it up. I hope this video was helpful to anyone out there that's looking for ways to make money online so that they can travel or maybe just find some greater financial freedom or possibly live off grid like this or whatever it may be, and these are some of the things that have and have not worked for me in my personal experience. Obviously, everybody is different. Things can work for different people, and you just got to try a few different things and figure out what works best for you. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you all in the next one.